In today's video, I'm going to be showing you my Sorare Global Cup 2022 strategy and squad. Before we do get into things, if you haven't yet signed up to Sorare and you are looking to play in the Global Cup 2022, there's a link in the description of this video that will sign you up to Sorare and allow you access into my private league. You're probably wondering, Harry, what is your private league? Basically, you're going to compete with myself and whoever else wants to join the league using your Sorare Global Cup team for free for the chance to win some cool prizes. So this Sunday I fly out to Qatar. I'm going to be buying some matchday programs from some of the games that I go to. I'm giving away 3 to the top 3 in my private league, and first position, as well as getting a matchday program, will win a signed Welsh jersey. Basically, it's going to look like this. With obviously all the players' signatures on. I'm really jealous because I'd love to have one myself. Sorare kindly donated it to me to give away to one of you guys. So yeah, spread the word. If you are interested in trying to win a Welsh signed jersey, head over to that link in the description. Sign up to Sorare if you haven't done so already. If you have already signed up, you can still enter the private league. Just click the link and it will take you to my private league. Sorry if that intro was a little bit long-winded. Let's get into the video. Okay, so Global Cup, 100-point budget. This has been a nightmare for me, guys, to be honest. I've been tinkering over the last week or so since the inception of the Global Cup. I've made about 500 different teams, as you guys have probably done so yourselves. I think I've finally settled on my 8 players. And yeah, today I'm gonna go through those 8 players, why I picked them, and my strategies going forward for this Sorare Global Cup. So one big thing that changed my mind, basically yesterday, I think the news dropped, was this situation. So what happens if there's a tie between me and another manager? What is the tiebreaker rule? So previously it was thought that, say if myself and you have the exact same points in a team, so our 5 players each score 500 points, let's just say, for example, right, on the dot, like there's no difference in our points at all. To decide who would finish first and who would finish second between us both, it would come down to who submitted their lineups first, which I think is a little bit wrong. Now Sorare have come out and said that the tiebreaker rule will go down to the top 3 players score on your bench. So you pick 8 players in the draft, as you can see here, 2 forwards, 2 mids, 2 defenders, and 2 goalkeepers. And they're basically saying that the top 3 scores from your bench is what's going to determine whether you finish above the person with the same 5 players as you score-wise, or below them, if that makes sense. If there's multiple, it works the same way. But if you do both have the exact same bench scores as well as your actual team scores, so say if your 5 players each score 400 points each, you have 80 points each on your bench as well from the top 3 players, it does then go down to who submitted their lineup first. So that still applies, but it's just secondary now to the top bench players, which I think is an interesting thing because it's sort of changed my strategy slightly. I was tempted to go like really, really big on my 5 starting players, and then for my 3 bench guys, just make them like as cheap as possible, i.e. they're not going to play a minute basically. They might not even go to the World Cup. So yeah, that strategy has kind of had to be put on hold a little bit because although you still want your 5 players to score amazingly well, but considering there's I think there's 230,000 players right now entered into the Global Cup, and that is still rising. The chances of you having a similar team to someone else, if not the exact same team, is very, very likely, of course. So yeah, I think it's more optimal than not to have a decent bench, meaning that you want at least 2 or 3 of those players, if not all 3, to score some points. They might not have to be starters in their team, but it would be, I think it's optimal for them to be in and around the first team of their World Cup team, because if you do end up, on a tiebreaker with somebody or multiple people, it's going to come down to your bench. So I do think that is something we should definitely consider, and I definitely have a little bit more. That's not to say that I've spent a shitload on my bench, but I've tried to be strategic with it, and I've tried to get players in who I think have a good chance of scoring me points if I need to, and if it does come down to that tiebreaker thing. But I just want to emphasize, it's of course all about those 5 starting players. They need to score the most points for you. Worry about that first, and then your bench comes secondary. My goalkeeper of choice is going to be Emiliano Martinez of Argentina. I think they've got a great group. They've got a great opening fixture. I think their chances of qualifying through the group stage is almost 100%. In my opinion, even though football is a funny sport at times, but I do think they have a great chance of going very far in this tournament, and I don't really see many chances for them not to keep a clean sheet in those 3 group stage games, which is going to be really important, because after the first round of games after match day 1, everyone will receive a new common card to go into your draft. So you'll effectively have 9 players to play with. Everyone will win a card after the first match day. Same for the second, third, fourth, fifth, etc., etc. And then just before the round of 16, you will get 50 more points up in this budget in the top left-hand corner to buy 4 more players. So yeah, because obviously a lot of your players might get knocked out and whatever, injured. So yeah, it just sort of keeps the game rolling in that sense. I think he's a great goalkeeper. I think Argentina have a great chance at this World Cup. And I'm going to be pairing him with a certain Lisandro Martinez of Manchester United and, of course, Argentina. If you do watch my videos, I am an advocate of defensive stacks. And if you are brand new to Sorare and you don't know what that means, it's basically where you get a goalkeeper and a defender from the same nationality / club. In this case, of course, it's nationality. And you're basically going high risk, high reward, right? If I think in this case that Argentina are good for a clean sheet in their first game, their second game, their third game, then if they both start, which I think they will, Lisandro Martinez will get 10 extra points for a clean sheet and Emiliano Martinez will get 25 extra points. So I'm looking at 35 extra points as long as Argentina keep a clean sheet with those 2 players. Of course, they don't keep a clean sheet, then, I'm in big trouble. It's a high risk, high reward strategy, I think. And yeah, the correlation for me is important. I do really like it. And like I said, I think they have a great opening fixture. I think they have a great second fixture. The Poland fixture is going to be interesting. Argentina probably have wrapped up the group at that point, so I don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll get to that when it comes round. But yeah, my defensive stack, I'm happy with it. I think Martinez, Lisandro in that sense, is pretty cheap at 10 points. Emiliano is at 14. He's not the cheapest goalie by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think a lot of players, users of Sorare and of this Global Cup will tend to go for cheaper goalkeepers, and I think they'll really go harder in their forward and mid options. But yeah, I don't think as many players will go with the more sort of premium goalkeepers in that sense. And I think the fact that I've gone with, a defensive stack in that sense as well with Lisandro. I'm not saying nobody's done it. Of course, people have obviously done it. There's going to be loads of people with the same team as me, I imagine. But yeah, that for me, I just feel most comfortable with that defensive stack. In midfield, we are going with Belgium's Kevin De Bruyne. He's 19 points. He is the most expensive midfielder on the game alongside Joshua Kimmich. I just think, we all know what De Bruyne can do with the football. They do have an interesting group, but I do expect there to be quite a lot of goals in that group. And I do think if Belgium are going to score goals, Kevin De Bruyne's probably going to be creating the majority of those sort of chances and efforts. So yeah, for me, it's a no-brainer. I think you need a Kevin De Bruyne, Luka Modric, Kimmich. You need one of these sort of main guys in there. Bernardo Silva, Angel Di Maria. The list sort of goes on. Valverde. I think you do need to do really well in this Global Cup. You are going to need the best players for the most part, right? And it's hard to fit them all in. That's why we do have a budget, of course, and what makes it fun. But I just don't see anyone else really having the goal contribution, the assist contribution, and just the overall ball contribution to the game as Kevin De Bruyne does. And I just think his scores are going to reflect that. Decent opening fixture against Canada. They're no mugs, Canada, don't get me wrong. But I do think Belgium should dominate possession in that game. And you'd have to fancy De Bruyne, to do well in it. In my podcast, Value of Talent, if you haven't listened to it, please do. But yeah, I kind of... we had some criteria, and one of them was biggest flop of the tournament, and I did actually go with Kevin De Bruyne, and I'm kind of covering myself here and hedging my bets. I just don't think Belgium will do that well at the tournament, and subsequently De Bruyne won't in that sense, but I still think he'll do well enough to be a threat in this type of draft system. So yeah, I couldn't go without him. Kevin De Bruyne, right? Up front, I'm going with 2 forwards, and my reasoning for the first one is a little bit obvious. It was basically Messi or Neymar, and I did mention at the start of the video, I am going to Qatar to watch Wales play at the World Cup, and I'm also watching a few other games, and one of them games is the Brazil-Serbia game, and I could have not picked Neymar, could I? It's the first time I'm ever going to be able to watch Neymar live, play for Brazil, and to have him in my Sorare Global lineup is just the icing on the cake. So I couldn't turn down, choosing Neymar. I love Messi equally as much, if not more. But yeah, main man for Brazil. He's going to take penalties. He's going to be on set pieces. He's going to be the vocal point for their team decisively, goals, assists, etc., etc. He's the Kevin De Bruyne of Belgium in that sense. Everything tends to go through him if they're going to be successful. And yeah, 23 points, but I think it's going to be money well spent. And as my extra player, so this is my starting, 4. And then my 5th and final starter, and then we'll get into the bench, is none other than Jamal Musiala, right? The star boy of Germany right now. 13 points for me is a little bit of a bargain. I think it could be a bit of a cheat code. I think Germany will do well in their group. They obviously have Spain in there, Japan in that first game, and same sort of situation to Neymar. I am going to watch the Germany-Japan game as well. So I will, hopefully, if Jamal starts, be able to watch him play in real life. And again, to have two players in my draft, starting in my draft, in my 5 players, and be able to watch them live is just an absolute sort of dream come true in that sense, as corny as that sounds. But yeah, I rate him. He's been exceptional for Bayern Munich this season. His stats for his age has been phenomenal, contribution-wise. The German team, to me, is very rigid, very methodical. He's the one player for me that has that X factor. He has that burst of pace, those intense dribbles where he just leaves defenders for dead and the ball's in the back of the net before you know it, right? He's that athletic and that sharp right now. The defenders can't really deal with his sort of explosiveness and his agility. And yeah, for me at 13 points, it seems like a bit of a bargain, lads. I can't lie. So yeah, that will be my starting 5 going into this first round of games for match day 1. In terms of my bench, I've got 21 points to go. Going with our goalkeeper first, I haven't spent a crazy amount on this. I've actually spent 6 points. And we're going with Lawrence, who is Ghana's goalkeeper. I'm hearing whispers that he might well start. Of course, if he's on your bench, of course, it's going to matter in a tie-break situation, but in terms of the 5 players you pick, and I'm, of course, going to pick Emiliano Martinez, it doesn't really make too much of a difference to me that the Lawrence starts for Ghana or not. Of course, if it comes down to a tie-break and I have the same 5 players and points as somebody else, then it's going to make a difference. But yeah, the strategy for me was, try and find cheap enough players that do have a good probability of starting, basically. And yeah, that goalkeeper choice just falls into that category for me. In defense, we're going with 8-point Thomas Meunier of Belgium. Ideally, I want players on my bench that I think are going to go through the group stages, right? I want an abundance of selection of players going into that final 16. Of course, we do get 4 extra players at that point, and we would have won 3 cards by that point. So match day 1 will win a card, match day 2, match day 3 will win another card. Yeah, so we should already have enough cards to help us. But I just want to maximize all my cards as possible. I don't want, nobody wants their cards not qualifying in that sense. So yeah, I've picked Meunier. I think Belgium are going to qualify, even though it is a tough group. Meunier should play. He's had a few knocks recently, so there were question marks about his fitness and stuff. But I do think if he's fit, he starts for Belgium and he can make a decent bench player for me if I need him. And our last midfielder selection, we are going with Sebastian Szymanski, who's 6 points, which I put him in one of my budget videos that I've made on my channel. If you want to go check that out, please do. But yeah, budget mid, 6 points. I think he's a bit of a bargain. He started yesterday for Poland in a friendly game. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to start at the World Cup, of course, but I do think he will be decisive off the bench if he needs to. He has a great left foot. He loves to take set pieces. And yeah, for me at 6 points, I couldn't really say no. I don't need him to start. I've got KDB there for that primary midfielder option because I will be going with Neymar and Musiala as my 2 forwards in my 5 starting players. But I think Szymanski at 6 points is a bit of a bargain. I don't see him not featuring for Poland. I don't necessarily see him starting, but that doesn't really matter. As long as he scores some points for me off the bench, then that's fine. Because if it does come down to a tiebreaker, I do have those points to sort of count on in that sense. So I'll confirm my draft and we will get into just building the 5 players out. We're going to Emiliano Martinez against Saudi Arabia as our defender, and our Argentina stack, Lisandro Martinez, Kevin De Bruyne as our midfielder, and Neymar and Jamal Musiala up front. I am going to captain Neymar because I don't see anyone that has Neymar not captaining him unless they have Messi. So I think, to hit the maximum points I want possible, I think it'd be stupid not to go with Neymar as captain because I think he has the most probability out of these 5 to score the highest. It's not an easy fixture against Serbia, don't get me wrong, but I do expect Brazil to score 1 or 2, and I'd hope Neymar would be involved in those goals somewhat. You could argue De Bruyne has an equally good chance to score as high as Neymar has against Canada, but for me it's a bit of a toss-up, and yeah, I'm kind of... I'm not against going with Neymar here. For one, I'm just massively excited to see Musiala and Neymar play in real life. I do think my defensive stacks correlation could provide some really healthy points early on in these group stage games for Argentina. And I just need De Bruyne to just do what he does for Man City. I know he's not playing with the same quality of players as he does for Man City, but he's the main man for Belgium. And yeah, for me, I do see him being decisive on the pitch. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed that Global Cup strategy video of mine. I hope I've inspired you to not copy my team, but take some tips from it. I hope it was of value to you in some way. And yeah, I'm just super excited for one, of course, the World Cup, but two, the Global Cup on Sorare. Like I said at the start of the video, if you haven't yet signed up to Sorare, there's a link in the description of this video that will take you to my private league. Loads of prizes on offer. It's free to play. And I just can't wait, lads. I'm getting so excited for this World Cup. And yeah, looking forward to bringing you guys more content along the way. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Have a great day. And I shall see you guys in the next one.